Good day, everyone. I am here to discuss to you what is the lesson or the topics included in your week 3 in our subject, which is the statistics and probability. So again, I am your subject teacher, so Sir Kenneth M. Abreu. Okay, so let's identify first what are the modules included in your week 3. So since we are already done on how do we calculate for the mean, the variance, and the standard deviation of the discrete random variable, so we can now be able to identify or to do these uh, lessons. First one is the interpreting the mean and the variance of the probability distribution, solving problems involving the mean and the variance of the probability distribution, and illustrating a normal variable and its characteristics. So in these modules, you are going to interpret how do uh, uh, we are going to identify the interpretation on how do we solve for the mean, the variance, and the standard deviation of the discrete random variable, and applying these concepts are the skills and how do we solve problems. And we are going to open a new lesson which is about a normal variable, and we are going to identify what are its characteristics. Okay, let's first identify or go on with interpreting the mean and the variance of the probability distribution. So decision making is an important skill that each individual should acquire. It is a must that you should be wise when making decisions. In real life, we can always encounter situations where we have to choose the best option to arrive with the right decision. So thinking critically and logically will help you to decide on things wisely, considering that you might become a CEO of a company, a professional, a father or a mother. Surely these lessons will help you to decide on future financial situations. Interpreting the mean and the variance of the probability distributions will give you the idea on how to weigh things for you to choose the right options. It is correct that it is important for us people to have a wise decision making. Okay? So let's go on with this activity. This is what's in. So based on the given directions, you are going to introduce or write the correct formula in each box to complete this task. So we have this four formula, formula 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first formula would be the formula on how do we get or calculate the mean of the given discrete random variable. Formula number 2 and number 3 would be the formula on how do we get the variance of a discrete random variable. And formula number 4 would be the formula on how do we get for the standard deviation of a discrete random variable. Okay, let's have this first situation. So I am thinking of finding the average number of heads that will appear if I toss two coins together twice. So which formula should I use? So based on the given situation, you are going to find the average. So another term for average would be the mean. So therefore, the formula or the appropriate formula for this situation would be formula number 1, which is mean is equal to the summation of x sub I times probability of x. So why? Because it is the formula to be used if you want to find the mean of a discrete random variable. Okay? Next, situation number 2. I went to the grocery store and I noticed that there are 5 different kinds of brown sugar at different prices. So each brand has different probabilities price to the customers repeatedly. So based on the given situations, so you're going to identify the variations or the variability of the prices of that 5 different kinds of brown sugar. So if we are going to find the variation, the appropriate formula to be used would be the formula in finding the standard deviation, because it is the formula to be used if you want to find the standard deviation of the discrete random variable. If we are going to find the variability of the uh, the prices of that 5 different kinds of brown sugars, so we are going to identify its standard deviation. So even though formula 2 and 3 or the formula and variance measures also the variability of the values assumed by the random variable x are the prices of brown sugar in a repeated trials or sold to the customers repeatedly, the units of standard deviation match those with x because standard deviation is the square root of the variance. Okay? So it is impossible for us to solve for the standard deviation without computing for the variance. So magagamit pa rin natin yung formula ni variance. But then, based on the given situation, variability yung kinukuha natin. So the formula, the appropriate formula to be used would be the formula on finding the standard deviation. Okay? Hey, next. In this time, you can now be able to answer the following question on what's new. So the title of that activity would be the unfair dice. Okay, so you can pause this video first and then answer the necessary questions on what's new and then write down your answers on your answer sheets or on your yellow paper. Okay, then after you answer that activity, uh, let's continue the discussions of this topic. Okay, moving on. So these are the informations, or these are the discussion proper on how do we interpret the mean and the variance standard deviation of discrete random variable. So based on the previous lessons, you learn how to calculate the mean, the variance, and standard deviation of discrete random variable. So with those skills, you will be able to answer the questions in the previous activity. So first, let's us find the mean of the probability distribution using the formula. So based on the given problem, so what would be the average uh, number of dots that will appear if you roll a die? Okay, sa formula natin dito, based on the formula, so we have mean is equal to the summation of x sub I times probability of x. So substitute the values from the given formula, so that will be 1 times 0.1 plus 2 times 0.1 plus 3 times 0.1 plus 4 times 0.5 plus 5 times 0.1 and plus 6 times 0.1. So the answer would be equivalent to 3.7. If 3.7 would be the mean of the given problems, so therefore the mean of the probability distribution is 3.7. The mean is equal to 3.7. We can say that the average number of dots that would appear in a number near to 3.7, which is 4. So we are going to round up the given answer on the mean because there is no 3.7 in a single roll of die. Okay, so we are going to round up the given answer to the nearest whole number. That's why it becomes 4. So if we repeat the experiments over and over, there is a high possibility that 4 dots will appear since the average number of dots that would appear is 4. Okay? That would be the mean. Then afterwards, so to determine the variability of the assumed values from the mean, use the formulas for finding the variance and standard deviation. But first, construct a table like the one below. So take a look on the given table. Okay? First column would be the number of possible outcome or the outcomes itself, 1 to 6. And then the probability of x would be the probability of each dots. That would be on the second column. On the third column, that would be the product of x and then the probability of x. I-multiply lamang natin yung magkatapat sa x and then probability of x. So that would be x times probability of x. Pagdating natin sa fourth column, there are a common error. So I want you to get your modules and then write down the correct answer doon sa ating column number 4. So what are the mistakes na nakita ko dyan? Okay, this one. So column number 4, since x squared, so once doon sa tapat ng 1, i-square natin yung 1, that would be 1. 2, i-square natin 2, dapat siya ay maging 4. Okay? Dapat siya ay maging equal to 4. Okay. So yun, tama na siya lahat, di ba? So we have 3, 9, 4 squared, 16, 5 squared, 25, and 6 squared. That would be equivalent to 36. Then afterward, i-multiply natin ngayon itong sa x squared kay probability of x. So 1 times 0.1, so that would be 0.1. 0.1 times 4, that would be 0.4. 0.1 times 9, so that would be 0.9. 0.5 times 16, so that would be 8. 0.1 times 25, that would be 2.5. Pagdating naman dito sa last, 0.1 times times 36, that would be equivalent to 3.6. That would be equal to 3.6. And then after identifying the product of x squared and then probability of x, kukuhanin lang natin yung summation niya para makuha natin yung variance at saka yung ating standard deviation. 0.1 plus 0.4 plus 0.9 plus 8 plus 2.5 plus 3.6, that would be equal to 15.5. If that would be the summation of x squared times probability of x, yun yung gagamitin natin doon sa ating formula sa pagkuha ng variance. Sa pagkuha ng variance, ang kailangan natin is yung summation ng x squared times probability of x times yung ating mean, i-squared lang natin siya. Since ang mean nakuha natin kanina is 3.7. So, hindi natin gagamitin yung ni-round off nating answer doon sa pagkuha natin ng ating variance. Kung ano yung exact na mean na nakuha natin doon sa ating computation, so that would be the mean na gagamitin natin sa pag-solve ng ating variance. Di ba kanina na-round off natin to 4, si 3.7 into 4. Dito, ang gagamitin talaga natin is yung exact answer na nakuha natin kay mean, which is 3.7. Okay, so since ang nakuha natin sa summation of x squared times probability of x is 15.5, ima-minus lamang natin yung ating mean na 3.7 na ini-squared, ang magiging answer natin dyan would be equal to 1.81. So therefore, the variance of the given discrete random variable would be 1.81. And lastly, para makuha naman natin yung kanyang standard deviation, i-square root lamang natin kung anong nakuha natin kay variance, which is 1.81. I-square root lang natin. Magiging square root of 1.81 is equal to 1.35. So 1.35 would be your standard deviation. If you notice na kapag doon sa ating standard deviation, ang gagawin lang natin is to round off yung ating answers to decimal places. Ano? Okay. So therefore, the variance of the random variable x, or the number of dots appears, is equal to 1.81, while the standard deviation is equal to 1.35. So you're going to take note that small variance of standard deviation means that assumed values of data points tend to be very close to the mean, while higher variance or standard deviation means that the assumed values of data points are spread out from the mean. Specifically, the variance and standard deviation measures or describes how far a set of data or assumed values of a random variable is spread out. Since the value of the standard deviation is 1.35, so we can say that the assumed values of each outcomes are somewhat close to the mean for about 1.35 units from the mean. Okay? So knowing this information, you may now decide whether you will join a game using an unfair die. Make sure you will think more critically and logically before you make a decision, and remember, being fair and just is just a virtue. Bear in mind that the mean of the discrete random variable is just the average value of the random variable over repeated trials of experiment. And in the next lesson, it will be discussed further in its application to the real-life situation. So to understand more the concept of the variance and the standard deviation, the following are the examples that will give you a deeper idea about the concept of variance and standard deviation. The first data in the following example is someone expected to have a higher variance and standard deviation or variability compared to the other data. Okay, let's have this first example. The population size of 100 different countries around the world compared to the population of 10 countries belong to the first world countries. Due to a large number of samples or 100 different countries and other factors such as land area, economic status, etc., you may say that the most likely you will get a higher variance and standard deviation compared to the population of 10 countries belong to the first world country. Okay, another example. The number of students in different universities compares to the number of students in a class in a particular school. I-consider natin yung different universities with different size and course offerings. You may say that the difference between the enrollments will be much higher than the difference of each class size in a particular school. And third example, the number of people who love to play basketball in different barangays. to the number of basketball players from different teams who will play in the first quarter game. So, basketball is a famous game and almost every guy loves to play this game. Imagine that you will gather the number of people who love to play with different barangays. It is expected that you will gather different results compared to the number of basketball players from different teams who play in the first quarter game. Almost everybody is aware that there are only 5 players from each team to play a game. So therefore, if you will compute the variance of the data from the different teams, you will get a value of 0. The mean will be equal to 5 because each team who played the game should be have 5 players only. At the same time, if you will compute the variance of the distribution with equal inputs, you will get the value of 0. Okay? Kasi laman lahat, yung 5 players na yun ay makakalaro in a particular game. Okay, so the mean and the variance of discrete random variable are easy to understand if you know the concepts behind these two measurements. As you go on the different modules in statistics and probability, mean and variance will always be included in the discussion. The mean, variance, and standard deviation are important in statistics because they serve as the basis for other types of statistical calculations or statistical tests. Okay, so yun daw. Almost all of the topics in statistics and probability ay meron siyang process ng pagkuha ng mean, variance, at saka standard deviation. Okay? So, in this time, you can now answer the following questions on what's more, what I have learned, and your assessment. So you can also pause this video for you to be able to answer the questions from what's more, what I have learned, and assessment. Okay? Moving on with the next one. The process on how do we solve problems involving mean and the variance of the probability distribution. Automatic kapag may variance na dyan, kailangan na rin nating isolve si standard deviation. Okay? I-apply lamang natin yung calculations of mean, variance, and standard deviation sa pag-solve ng particular problems. Are you interested in buying lotto tickets? How about making bet in a roulette wheels or taking a chance in a raffle tickets? Do you want to know how much gain you will have if you will win in a games of chance, or how much money will you be wasted if you lost on a bet? Are you planning to invest money in the life insurance company? If you had that thought of the following questions, this lessons is for you. What's in? For you to begin, let's recall the previous lesson, which is important for you to succeed. From your last module, you learned that the expected value or the mean value of this random variable denoted by x is computed by first multiplying each possible x value to the probability of being the value, then adding the resulting quantities. Expected value is also equivalent to the mean value. So, pagkuha natin ng mean natin, that would be the summation of x sub I times probability of x sub I. So, x sub I is the value of the random variables for the outcome. P of x is the probability that a random variable will have an outcome. U sub x would be the mean value of a random variable. And then, E sub x is the expected value of the random variable x. U sub x, tsaka yung ating E of x is the same. Parehas lamang siyang tinutukoy niya ay mean. Also, you already learned the equation from computing the variance of discrete random variable. To find the variance, so remember that we are going to get the summation of x minus mean squared times probability of x. Or, pwede natin gamitin, or another formula natin na pwedeng gamitin would be this one, yung ating summation of x squared times p of x. Ima-minus natin doon sa ating mean value or doon sa ating u squared or kung nakuha nating value ng mean. Again, x squared, the square value of discrete random variable. P of x, the probability of an outcome of discrete random variable. U squared ay the square of the mean of discrete random variable, and yung ating variance is the variance of discrete random variable or yung ating sigma squared. Moreover, the standard deviation of a discrete random variable x is the square root of the variance. So, i-square lang natin yung value ng variance natin para makuha natin si standard deviation. The variance and the standard deviation of discrete random variable x may be interpreted as measures of variability of the values assumed by the random variable in repeated trials of the experiment. So before you proceed to the next lesson, study the example below and reflect whether you are now ready to proceed to the new lesson. Okay, let's have this example. The table below shows the probability distribution of number of girls in a family of 3 children in Barangay Maligaya. So calculate the mean and the variance of the random variable with the given probability distribution. Yan. Outcome or sample point. Yung ating mga probability of X kapag lahat ay lalaki, that would be 0. GBB, BGB, BBG, isa yung babae, so that would be the outcome. Kapag naman dalawa yung babae, at kapag naman tatlo yung babae. Yung corresponding probability, kapag walang babae, 1/8. Ibig sabihin, puro lalaki lamang yung anak. Kapag may isang babae, so that would be 3.8 yung probability. Kapag dalawa yung babae, 3.8 din yung probability. At kapag lahat naman ay babae, ang probability natin would be 1.8. Tandaan mabuti, kapag 0, walang babae, ay 1.8 yung probability. Kapag isa yung babae, 3.8. Kapag dalawa yung babae, 3/8 rather. Kapag tatlo yung babae, that would be 1/8. Okay. So, yan yung gagamitin natin kapag sinolve natin yung ating mean and variance ng ating random variable. Okay. Finding the mean of discrete random variable. So, yan. So, since kapag walang babae, 1/8, kapag isang babae, 3/8, kapag dalawang babae, 3/8, at kapag tatlong babae, 1/8. Yun yung isa-substitute natin sa formula natin. So, expected value or the mean value is equivalent to 0.0 times 1/8 plus 1 times 3/8 plus 2 times 3/8 plus 3 times 1/8. So, makukuha natin dyan 0 times 1/8, that would be 0. 1 times 3/8, that would be 3/8. 2 times 3/8, that would be 6/8. And then 3 times 1/8, that would be 3/8. So, diyan gagawin natin is to add. Since similar fraction naman sila, lahat ng kanilang denominator would be 8. So, we are going to add yung ating numerator. 3 plus 6 plus 3, that would be equal to 12. And then copy whatever be the denominator since sila ay similar fraction. So, na magiging 12/8. So, round off lang yung nating answer. Ang ating simplified form ng 12/8 ay 3/2. Or, change natin siya into decimals, that would be 1.5. So, therefore, makukuha na natin yung interpretation natin that the mean or the expected value of discrete random variable is 3/2 or 1.5. So, that would be the mean. Find the variance and standard deviation of discrete random variable, you need to prepare a task table like the one below. Yung katulad ng ginawa natin. Yung first column would be X, and probability of X would be the second column. Since meron na tayong mean na nakuha na is equivalent to 1.5, so ang gagawin natin is to get or kuhanin natin yung ating third column, which is the X squared. 0 squared, that would be 0. 1 squared is equal to 1. 2 squared is equal to 4, and 3 squared is equal to 9. And then, i-multiply lang natin yung probability of X natin doon sa ating X squared. 1/8 times 0, that would be 0. 3/8 times 1, so that would be 3/8. 3/8 times 4, that would be 12/8 or 3/2. 1/8 times 9, so that would be 9/8. Okay? And then, para makuha lang natin yung ating variance, kuhanin lamang natin yung ating summation ng ating kuhanin lamang natin yung summation natin ng ating given na given doon sa ating fourth column. So, we have 3/8 plus 12/8 plus 9/8. So, that would be equal to 24/8. Yung 24/8 na yan, ay i-simplify lang natin, kaya siya magiging equal sa 3. So, ayun yung ating summation ng X squared times probability of X. So, ang gagawin lang natin para makuha si variance, ima-minus lamang natin yung nakuha natin. Ipagma-minus lang natin yung nakuha natin doon sa summation ng X squared times probability of X na 3 doon sa ating sa squared ng ating given na mean na 1.5. Kaya siya naging 3 minus 1.5 squared, which is equivalent to 3 minus 2.25. So, makukuha nating variance would be 0.75. Since 0.75 would be the mean, the variance of the given standard, the given probability distribution. Okay? That would be the variance. And then afterwards, after nating makompute si variance, ay i-compute naman natin si standard deviation. I-square root lang natin variance na 0.75. So, makukuha natin dyan would be 0.87. Since square root of 0.75 is 0.87, i-round off natin yung answer natin to decimal places. So, therefore, yung interpretation natin ng ating given problem, the variance of the discrete random variable is 0.75, while the standard deviation is 0.87. So, that would be the mean is 1.5, the variance is 0.75, and then the standard deviation is 0.87. Okay. Next thing you need to do is to read the conversation and answer the questions that follow on what's new. The title of the activity is The Game of Chance. Again, so you can also pause this video first and then answer the necessary questions dun sa activity natin sa What's New or the Game of Chance. Okay? Continuation. So to answer questions 1 in the previous activity, you have to understand first the consequences of buying a ticket. Will it give you the advantage or disadvantages? Can you afford to spend extra money to buy a ticket? Look at this way. If you will buy a ticket, you have an extra chance to win the prize worth 15,000 pesos. If you are lucky enough, it is good for you. But on the other hand, what if you are not lucky? Then you will lose 500 pesos for buying the 5 tickets. Considering this amount, 500 pesos, you are aware that you can buy more essential needs like foods, school, and medical supplies, and other miscellaneous needs with this amount rather than using it to buy tickets. However, if you allocated extra money for other unexpected expenses, buying a ticket is not bad at all. The point of making the right decision is not difficult if you know how to consider what is more important. Okay? Sana may natutunan doon sa statement na ating ibinigay ngayong araw na to. Ano? If you it is not bad to spend money for the tickets if you have unexpected expenses. Ano, or meron kang right amount of money na na-save para maipambili ng ticket. Pero kung yung ticket naman yun is good na para makabili ng mga pagkain, school and medical supplies and other miscellaneous needs. So, maging practical na lang tayo in making right decisions. Ano, na we need to consider what is more important or kung alin yung mas mahalaga. If you are Cardo, you need to understand that the given details on the situation for you to make the right decision. If you will win the prize, you net gain of 15,000 pesos, less 500 pesos because it is the amount spent for buying 5 tickets or 14,500. The probability that you will win the prize 5 out of 1,000 tickets is 5 over 1,000. But if you decide to buy 1 ticket only, then the net gain is 15,000 pesos less 100 amount spent for buying 1 ticket. So that would be 14,900. And probability that you will win the prize is 1 out of 1,000 tickets or 1 over 1,000. The more tickets you buy, the more chances of winning. So however, your chance of losing is higher than chance of winning because it is equal to 1 less than the probability of winning. If you buy 5 tickets, the probability that you will not win the prize is 995 over 1,000 or 0.995 or 99.5% ay hindi ka tumama dun sa ticket. But if you buy 1 ticket only, the probabilities is 999 over 1,000 or 99.9 yung probability na hindi ka tumama doon sa ating tickets. There is a chance, pero mas malaki yung probability na hindi ka mabunot or hindi ka tumama. So what if 1,000 tickets were purchased by different individuals? What is the expected value of one ticket? To answer the question, you need to apply the formula for the mean or the expected value of the discrete random variable. Or the distribution, which is equal to the expected value, is equal to the mean value equals to the summation of x sub I times probability of x sub I. The expected values is also defined as the average value of the random variable over numerous trials of an experiment. So the table below is probability distribution of the given situation. So yung x natin, yung kapag ikaw ay yung ma yung tatamaan mo which is 14,900 kapag bumili ka ng ticket, and then yung mababawas sa iyong pera which is 100. What is the probability na tumama ka? Ang probability na tumama ka would be only 1 over 1,000 or 0.001 or 0.1% only. That would be the probability na tamaan mo yung ticket mo. And then, yung hindi ka naman tatama, na nabawasan ka ng 100 pesos, is 999 over 1,000 or 0.999 or 99.9% yung probability na hindi ka tumama. Using the formula of the expected value, so that would be 14,900 times 0.001 plus negative 100 times 0.999, the expected value or the mid value is equivalent to negative 85. The negative value means the one loses money on the average. In particular, someone who buys ticket and although has a chance to win loses 85 pesos per ticket purchase. So having this knowledge, you can now make a wise decision. But remember, important things should be prioritized. If you can afford to buy tickets without sacrificing your essential needs, it is okay to take a chance sometimes. You should also consider saving money for future use. Because not every day you have enough funds. Having extra money would be a great help in times of needs. So meanwhile, having a friend like Romulo who are ready to help you or to advise you in time of needs in a precious time, he is a kind of friend who does not insist on what he wants, but let his friends decide on his own after giving a piece of advice. You are blessed if you will find a true friend that you can rely on. Having a true friend is a wealth. So now, you can now be able to solve or to answer the questions on what's more, what I have learned, and then what I can do. Okay, so you can write down your answer in your answer sheets. Again, you can pause this video first before moving on with the next topic. Okay, next. Our third topic is another lesson which is all about a normal variable. And then normal variable and its characteristics. Did you take a national achievement test or any placement test? How about measuring your height and weight during the first week of your PE class to know your body mass index or your BMI? Have you ever tried to determine the location or make an inference about your grades, heights, or weight in the distribution? If not, this lesson will teach you how to appreciate the importance of knowing the answer to those questions. First one, you are going to answer the questions on what's in, which is identifying the given statement if it is true or false. Okay, so you can pause again the video and continue after writing your answer on your answer sheets. Okay, moving on. What's new? The distribution of height, or in terms of x in centimeter, of 16 teachers of SC and HS was presented below. You need to construct an histogram for the random variable x. Again, height in centimeter of 16 teachers in a particular school. Yan. Okay, if this would be the height, so we have 138 centimeter, 139 centimeter, 140 centimeter, 141 centimeter, 142, 143, and 144. And its corresponding numbers of teachers who have that height. There are one teacher who has a height of 138, 2, 139, 3, 140, 4, 141, 3, 142, 2, 143, and 1, 144. The following items show your pictures captured by the authored during his travel in the different places and constructed using GeoGebra application which represent a common object. So analyze the group of pictures carefully, then identify the common object they represent. Write your answer by filling an empty boxes below each item. And hint is also provided for you. And you can now be able to write your answers. Okay, so picture number one. So we have blank R blank blank. So we have four letters. And then ang ating clue dyan would be the second letter which is R. The second one, we have a five letter, one word, five letter, and then the five letters, and then yung clue natin is yung pang third letter which is R. Next, yung atin namang third one would be nine letters, and then yung ating ano dyan would be, ating clue dyan would be that picture na ginamit natin siya sa graph ng ating rational functions, exponential functions, logarithmic functions. And then, ang ating clue dyan is yung ating third letter would be Y. And then, last letter natin or ninth letter natin would be E. Number 4 naman natin would be one word pa rin siya. Okay? Yan. And then, last natin would be nine letters pa din. And ang clue natin is yung first and second and yung last letter. Okay, you can write down your answers so sa inyong answer sheets. Okay, so sa letter A, ang gagawin nyo dyan would be histogram. And this one, ang gagawin nyo is to write kung ano yung item natin. Okay, you are going to define or describe each word that you have obtained in this activity dun sa ating number, letter B. Okay, what is it? How do you find the activity? How can you describe the graph you have made in activity A? Are the terms or words you obtained that B will describe the graphs in activity A? In the activity above, the distribution of the height of teachers is one of the examples of the distributions of a normal random variable. Because the set of numerical values is normally distributed, height is also described as a continuous random variable. You have also noticed that the mean of the distribution can be found at the center, which is 100. Distribution from the center to the right is the mirror of the distribution to the left as shown in the figure and the table below. So see this figure. Yan. Ibig sabihin, tingnan nyo kung ganito yung nagawa nyo doon sa ating first or letter A. Ganito yung itsura ng kanyang histogram. Okay? Yung height ng ating teachers or 16 teachers, and then yung number nila ng ganung may particular height. Okay. So, normal probability distribution is a probability distribution of continuous random variable. Since ang kinukuha na natin dito would be in terms of measurement, so ang distribution natin ngayon would be continuous random variables. Wala na tayo sa discrete. It shows that graphical representations of random variables obtained through measurement like the height and the weight of the students. The percentile ranks of the A&E or the accreditation and equivalency test result of the alternative learning system or ALS students or any data will infinite values. It is used to describe the characteristics of populations and help us visualize the inferences we make about the population. It is also used to determine the probabilities and percentile of the continuous random variables in the distribution. For example, your grades in mathematics is one of the score is the distribution. You can predict the location of the score in the distribution and interpret it with regards to the mean and standard deviation. Okay, so what are the properties of a normal variable? So ito na yung mga characteristics ng ating normal variable. The graphical representation of normal distribution is properly known as a normal curve. The normal curve is described clearly by the following characteristics. And these are the characteristics. First one, the normal curve is bell-shaped. Yun daw ating normal curve, ang kanya daw itsura would be bell shape, mukhang bell. Ano? Bell yung itsura ng ating normal curve. The curve is symmetrical about its center. This means that if we draw a segment from the peak of the curve down to the horizontal axis, the segment divides the normal curve into two equal parts. So, ibig sabihin, kapag hinati daw natin yung ating normal curve, sa gitna, symmetric daw sila or pantay. Pag sinabi ka sa ating symmetric, whatever be the value nung nasa left side, kapag hinati natin sila, ayun din yung magiging value ng nasa right side kapag hinati natin sila. The third one, the mean, the median, and the mode coincide at the center. So, ibig sabihin, yung pinakagitna, yung tinutukoy nating magiging symmetric yung ating curve, that would be the mean, the median, and the mode. So, ibig sabihin, pare-parehas daw ang value ng ating mean, median, and mode kapag tayo ay nasa normal distribution or nasa normal distribution ng ating continuous random variable. A distribution described by a normal curve, the mean, median, and mode are equal. Pare-parehas daw kung ano yung value ng ating mean, yan din ang value ng median, ayan din ang value ng mode kapag ang tinutukoy natin ay normal curve. Fourth one, the width of the curve is determined by the standard deviation of the distribution o yung pinaka-lapad daw ng ating curve ay ang dinedetermine daw noon would be the standard deviation. The tails of the curves are plotted in both directions and flatten out indefinitely along the horizontal axis. The tails are thus asymptotic to the baseline. So, ibig sabihin daw, yung ating pinakabuntot ng ating bell shape, ng ating normal curve, ay hindi magko-coincide or hindi daw siya lalapat doon sa ating horizontal axis or doon sa ating baseline. So, ibig sabihin, asymptotic siya. Dire-diretso lang siya. Nearly closed doon sa ating horizontal axis, but then hindi siya maglalapat. A portion of the graph that is asymptotic to the reference axis or another graph is called an asymptote, always approaching another but never touching it. Okay, 6. The total area under a normal curve is 1. So, ibig sabihin, nasa loob daw ng probability ng normal curve natin is 1. This means that the normal curve represent the probability. Kung ano yung nasa loob ng ating normal curve, ang pini-represent doon is yung kanyang probability. So, since yung nasa loob daw or total area ng ating normal curve is 1, so that is a probability. Or the proportion or the percentage associated with a specific sets of measurement values. That would be our property number 6. To visualize and understand the properties, characteristics of normal curve, so refer to this figure. Yan. Kung mapapansin nyo, yung pinakagitna daw natin na kung saan magiging symmetric yung ating bell shape na curve is the mean, median, and mode. Kung anong value nung nasa gitnang yan, kung ang value ng mean ay 3, ang value ng median is 3, ang value ng mode is 3 din kasi equal silang tatlo. Okay. Yung symmetric na tinutukoy natin kapag hinati natin yung ating curve from the mean, median, and mode, hinati natin sila, symmetric sila or pantay sila. Kung ano yung nasa left side ni mean, ayun din yung magiging itsura ng nasa sa right side ni mean. Ito daw ay unimodal. Okay? And then, yung pinakabuntot daw ng ating graph or ng ating bell shape would be asymptotic. Normal distribution random variable with the mean is equal to 0 and standard deviation is 1 is called a standard normal variable. Automatically, kapag ang mean daw natin ay 0 at ang ating standard deviation ay 1, ang tawag daw natin dyan would be standard normal variable. It is presented using a standard normal distribution where the center of the curve is 0, which is the mean, and added 1 unit to the center to the right and subtract 1 unit from the center to the left. This is shown in the figure below. Okay. Ito daw yung ating itsura ng ating standard normal distribution. Yung mean natin ay yung naghahati doon sa ating graph ng ating normal curve, ayan daw ang tawag natin diyan would be standard normal distribution. Okay. The shape of a normal curve is based on the two given parameters, the mean and the standard deviation of the distribution. When comparing two distributions each described by the normal curve, the following are the three situations based on the said parameters. A. When the mean are not equal, then When the means are not equal, but the standard deviations are equal, the curves have a similar shape but centered at different points. Ayan, itsura niya. Kung ang mean daw ng ating dalawang normal curve ay magkaiba, pero ang kanilang standard deviation ay parehas. So, parehas daw yung shape nila, but then, mag-iiba lamang yung ating curve kasi magkaiba sila ng mean. Yung isang curve natin, ang mean niya would be 0, yung isa naman, ang mean niya would be 1. Kaya mag-iiba. Parehas lang sila ng shape, pero na-adjust lamang yung ating pinaka-mean. So, yan yung magiging itsura niya. Pero kapag daw naman ang mean natin ay equal, when the means are equal but the standard deviations are equal, parehas daw na equal ang means at saka the curves are the centered at some point but they have different heights and spreads in the shown in figure 5. This one. Ito pala, itong letter B natin is that kapag ang mean are equal, pero ang standard deviation naman natin ay not equal. Mali yung caption natin sa taas. Kapag ang mean natin ay equal at ang standard deviation are not equal, parehas silang ang mean ay nasa 0, pero nagkakaiba yung kanilang height o yung kanilang height ng kanilang curve. Okay? Dito naman sa last natin, kapag ang mean naman natin ay magkaiba and the standard deviation natin ay magkaiba din, magkaiba parehas. So, ibig sabihin, magkaiba yung talaga yung magiging itsura ng curve natin. Yan. So, yun yung pagkakaiba-iba natin kapag yung mean natin at saka standard deviation ay magkaparehas, kapag yung mean at standard deviation natin ay magkaiba. So, we have this empirical rule. You can easily understand the functions of normal probability distribution in our real-life world using the empirical rule, because this rule is used to roughly test the distribution's normality. If many data of a random variable fall outside the lower and upper limits of the three standard deviation, this means that the distribution is not normal. The empirical rule is better known as 68%, 95%, and 99.7% rule. This rule states that the data of the distribution lies within 1, 2, and 3 of the standard deviations from the means are approximately 68%, 95%, and 99.7% respectively. So since the area of a normal curve is equal to 1 or 100% as stated on its characteristics, there are only few data, which is 0.30%, falls outside the three standard deviations from the mean. For instance, the distribution of the grades of the senior high school students in statistics and probability for the third quarter is shown below in figure number 7. Tulad yan. Yan. Kapag 68% yung ating magiging based on the empirical rule, kapag yung ating is 95% at kapag yung naman natin would be 99.7%. So that would be the distribution of grades of senior high school students in statistics and probability for the third quarter. So most of the students' grade is close to the mean. Yan. Yan daw yung ating mga grades. So fewer of the students' grades are far below the mean, and then fewer of the students' grades is far below the mean. Okay? Kapag papalapit ng palapit dun sa ating mean, so ibig sabihin, pagtaas daw ng ating grades. Pero paglayo daw ng ating score sa mean, so ibig sabihin, pagbaba daw ng grades ng ating mga students. Using the empirical rule, you can say that the distribution of the grades of the senior high schools in statistics and probability are distributed normally because the shape of the graph is bell-shaped and symmetric about its mean, which is 87. This also indicates that the most of the grades fall close to the mean and fewer of them are far below and are other above the mean. It can summarize the distribution of the following percentage. So 68% of the data lies within one standard deviation from the mean have a grade of 83 to 91. 95% the lies between two standard deviation from the mean have the grades of 79 to 95. And then 99.7% of the lies within three standard deviation from the mean have a grade of 83 to 99%. 99%. Let's have this example. So the scores of senior high school students in their statistics and probability quarterly examination are normally distributed with a mean of 35 and standard deviation of 5. So answer the following question. So what percent of scores are between 30 to 40? And then what scores falls between 95 of the distribution? Okay, solution. We are going to draw a standard normal curve and plot the mean of the center, then add the standard deviation to the mean when the mark is on the right of the mean. Add twice the standard deviation to the mean and put it to the right of the first sum, then add thrice the deviation to the mean and mark on the right side of the second sum. Do the same to the left, and then this time, instead of adding, subtract the standard deviation of the mean, and illustration is provided below. Yan. Kung yung mean daw natin would be 35, at ang standard deviation natin would be 5. Yan. So, ang gagawin lang natin, add lang tayo ng 5 doon sa right side. So, 35 plus 5, that would be 40. 40 plus 5, so 45. 45 plus 5, that would be 50. Ganun din yung gagawin natin sa left side. Kung mag-add tayo sa right side, sa left side, subtract tayo. 35 minus 5, 30. 30 minus 5, 25. 25 minus 50. Ayan. So, that would be the itsura. 30 to 40 falls between first standard deviation from the mean. Therefore, the scores that fall between 30 and 40 is approximately 68% of the distribution. Tingnan natin kung bakit naging 68.8% ng distribution kapag nasa 32. Okay? Pero, since 95% of distribution lies within two standard deviation from the mean, then the scores corresponding to the area of the distribution scores is from 25 to 45 naman kapag ang atin is 95%. Ano? Yan. And then yung namang ating 99.7%, magfo-fall naman siya between 20 to 50. Okay? Yan. Okay, sample number 2. The district nurse of Candelaria East needs to measure the BMI, or the body mass index, of the alternative learning system students, or the AL students. She found out that the height of the male students are normally distributed with a mean of 160 centimeters and standard deviation of 7 centimeters. So find the percentage of the male students' height is within 153 to 174. Okay, so ayan naman. So ibig sabihin, from the mean, ang kukuhanin natin would be plus 7 sa right side, and then minus 7 to the left side. Since ang kinukuha natin dyan is 153 cm to 174 cm. Saan daw siya magpo-fall? Okay. So nasa sa 68. Okay. The mean of the problem is 160. It is subtracted by 7. Kaya makukuha natin yung left at right side niya. So as stated in figure 8, 150 centimeters at first standard deviation from the mean to the left on the height of 174 centimeter falls at 2 standard deviation from the mean of the right. Therefore, it covers the whole 68 and 13.5% of the distribution, and the sum of its 81.5. So therefore, 68% plus 13.5%. So that would be equivalent to 81.5. So therefore, 81.5 of the male students have a height between 153 centimeter to 174 centimeter. Bakit naging 81.5? So balikan natin yung ating kasi doon sa 153, naroon lamang siya sa first standard deviation na magpo-fall sa 68%. Yung 174 naman ay nasa dalawang standard deviation. So, ibig sabihin, 13.5 yung ating kukuhanin doon sa, i-add natin doon sa 68%. So 68% plus 13.5%, so that would be equivalent to 81.5%. So that would be the height of the male students between 153 centimeter to 174 centimeter. So that would be using our empirical rule. Okay, at this time, since we already done with the definitions and then important information regarding the normal distribution and its characteristics, you can now be able to answer the following question in what's more and assessments. And then, ang gagawin nyo lang dun sa what I have learned is to read and understand all the important definitions. Kasi nadyan yung pinaka-summary ng mga important informations natin doon sa ating topic ng on how do we illustrate normal distribution and its characteristics. Okay? Now, you can now be able to uh, uh, go on with your activities and answers only for week 3. So, yung ating week 4 is on the following weeks natin ipopost yung discussion. Okay? Have a blessed day and then thank you.